Hello, everyone. I am here to preview the Seahawks Viking game on tomorrow night, Monday night, prime time. And Seattle, they come in at 7-5. Their offense is ranked 19th in total offense, averaging 353.2 yards a game. They are 26th in passing yards at 204.4 and tied for 24th in sacks allowed with 37. They are first in rushing yards allowed. No, first in rushing yards at 148.8. They are tied for 7th in yards per carry at 4.7, 19th in third down percentage on offense at 39%, and 9th in points per game at 26.6. Their defense, the numbers are pretty consistent for the most part. They're 19th in total defense, allowing 367.4 yards a game on average. 19th in passing yards allowed at 250.7. They're tied for 17th in sacks at 31. And 17th in rushing yards allowed at 116.8. However, they are tied for 30th in yards per carry allowed at 5.1. They're 9th in third down percentage at 37%. And 9th in points per game allowed at 21.6. Their injury report is as follows. KJ Wright, starting linebacker for him. He's out with a knee. DJ Fluker's doubtful with a hamstring. Doug Baldwin's a game-time decision with a hip. And Rashad Penny and Trey Madden, both running backs, are both questionable. And Penny has an ankle injury, and Madden has a chest injury. Now, Minnesota, they come into the game at 6-5-1. Offensively, they are 16th in total offense at 360.9 a game, 7th in passing yards at 274.8, and they're tied for 14th in sacks allowed at 30. They are 30th in rushing yards at 86.1 and tied for 25th in yards per carry at 4.1. 18th in third down percentage at 39%, 18th in points per game at 22.9. Defensively, they are 6th in total defense, allowing 327.8 yards a game on average, 9th in passing yards allowed at 228.6, 8th in sacks at 36, 7th in rushing yards allowed at 99.2, and tied for 2nd in yards per carry allowed at 3.7. They're 1st in third down percentage at 30%, and 14th in points per game allowed at 22.5. Now, their injury report is Chad Beebe, he's out with a hamstring still. David Morgan, still out with a knee. Waynes was told to be played by Zimmer earlier in the week. He's out with a concussion. And Kendricks, he's questionable with a rib injury, but he is, however, expected to play. Now, offensively, I think we need to we might be able to keep the ground game going in this game. And you need to stick with it this time, Flip. And they allow 5.1 yards per carry. And there's no KJ Wright. So, maybe you can take advantage of that, whether, that's in the run game or when, because there will be a backup in the game. If you can keep them into two linebacker sets, at least keep them in the nickel or possibly into the base. I don't expect them to keep them in the base too often just because they like to spread things out. But if you can keep them in the nickel, you might be able to expose that other linebacker to some Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph thing in the past game. That'd be kind of cool. But as a general thing here, I think they need to hold the ball and use effective play action passing, as that's kind of what Kirk Cousins is good at, just the lack of running and the lack of running efficiency. I think has kind of prevented us from doing a lot of these play action passes, but every time we've had it work, it works pretty darn well. And the other part about that is you need to hold the ball. And I know that doesn't always go as planned with us, but they do have the #1 rushing offense in the entire league. Hold the ball. Force them to throw. Throwing is not necessarily their identity this year, even though they got Russell Wilson. They have found a running game, and they are sticking with this running game. So you need to kind of force them to get out of it if you are to win this game, because it is on the road and you need to not turn the ball over. And obviously there's the whole convert on third down and red zone thing that they don't always do, but it's on the road, tough game. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere probably, as this is the two wild card teams coming in late in the year. And Minnesota needs to take this kind of more seriously than they did last week, I think. And last week was not good. It was just not good as a whole thing. But hold the ball. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make any stupid mistakes. Keep to the run game if it's working. They are allowing 5.1 yards per carry, so I imagine it's not going to be horrible, but it certainly should be effective. Like, that number just tells me at least try this game. Even though there is no David Morgan, and I know not having David Morgan's a huge loss for this run game, but you should not be able to not have a run game if a blocking tight end gets hurt. That's just my normal line of thinking, but that's kind of what we've seen so far this year. And defensively, you need to stop the run first and foremost, as I've stated. Number one rushing team in the league. So you also need to be able to take advantage of not having Fluker and possibly having, you have two backs banged up on this. One of them being a first-round draft pick in Rashad Penny. And then you also need to pressure Wilson early and often, I think. Although this is, once again, I think this is a lot of interior pressure, because what you have to do when you play a quarterback like Russell Wilson is you need to play contain. And so maybe not necessarily Griffin and Hunter going after him, but more of a Richardson, Linval, Tom Johnson kind of feel to this. And I don't know if that will always get it done. As we saw last week, there was like no interior pressure, and that was a big problem. But you need to play contain on Russell Wilson, and that doesn't always go well. There were other times that we've played Russell Wilson where this has not gone well, and not having Wayne in the lineup could be a severe issue, but it also could be a not severe issue because Doug Baldwin is a game-time decision, and that could potentially cancel out. And I do think Trey Waynes is better than people think. And special teams, just don't mess up, please. That's all I ask. And my prediction is I'm taking Seattle 27-20, just because Minnesota on the road doesn't seem to really work nearly as well. And they've kind of struggled against these better quarterbacks that we've seen this year that they've played, whether it's, Goff, Breeze. I guess Trubisky goes in that decent to good category now. You got Brady, obviously. I don't know, good quarterbacks, they seem to really struggle getting the win. But all these other developmental guys, or guys who are struggling this year, they're much better. And it's also kind of a feel thing. I'm just not feeling a win in Seattle. It's in Seattle, and that's really throwing that off. So I'm going to take Seattle 27-20 over Minnesota. I would like to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Until next time, I bid you all adieu.